I think we've gone through all the projects that the city has put together, and they all come together. Some of the money has been spent, a lot of it. Some is intended to be spent, but they all added up to $103 million in funding deficit, and they all go towards basically. What's interesting is everybody was wondering, as I'm going door to door, how we're able to afford $103 million in spending on all these projects, whatever the projects are, and there's a lot of projects. How we could do it by not spending tomorrow's money. I mean, people think it's pay as you go, but in theory it's pay as you go. But in reality, what we've done is we've tied the hands of the future council. The next 4 years after this year, this council is committed to $103 million. We're committed, we're fully committed. Whether it's spent or it's being spent, it is committed from this council for the next council. And I don't know if that sits very well with many of the people running today, because what it does, in fact, it makes their decision-making powers much, much less.
Isn't this how, I mean, isn't this a typical 5-year capital forecast budget? Isn't this what's always done? They always look 5 years ahead.
I think
capital budget.
What they do is they look 5 years ahead for a capital budget. But in theory, most people believe that we haven't spent this $103 million for the next 4 years. Most people believe that we're paying as we go. Most people believe that we're not paying this money from the next 4 years. That's what most people believe. And that's why consultation and people really being told what's going on is so important, and that's why transparency is so important, and that's why people believe that the city is not transparent. People believe, and that's why people want, and that's why I came up months ago with the idea of having the Office of the Auditor General. That's why I came up months ago with having a value for money audit of anyone. And because people have been telling me, people are wondering, what is going on here? We're a community that's going through really difficult times. When I go door to door, 3 out of 4 people I talk to have no job. Whether it's available and they're not trained properly, whether it's a difficult time we're going through, whatever it is, they're wondering, they're asking me, how is it possible that our sewers are falling apart? How is it possible that our roads are rotten? How is it possible that all these things are going on, and yet we're doing these massive projects all over the city? It's a decision that this council has made, so we live with this decision. But for the sake of transparency, for the sake of people understanding what is really going on, we have to explain that the next 4 years, our hands are somewhat tied. We have spent $103 million in funding deficit from the next council, and the next council will have to deal with it. Whether they can do any massive projects or not, that is a question that they're going to have to figure out. But we know their hands are now tied.
It certainly is a benefit, having the experience of sitting around the city council table and having gone through 8 budgets. You certainly gain a strong experience, and that's certainly an experience that he doesn't have, and something that he demonstrated today. The projects that we fund, and his particular board that he had for you folks earlier today, shows the lack of understanding, because all of our projects are fully funded. We operate on a 5-year capital plan, and that document that he had shows how we funded the projects in the 5-year capital plan, showing a net surplus at the end of the 5 years of $60,000. We are not allowed, he referred to deficit, we are not allowed to run deficits at the City of Windsor. Municipalities are not allowed to do that. In fact, it's against the Act, so it's effectively against the law for us to run deficits. We can't do that. So we must show you where the funds are going. We've done that. The document that he showed was a public document, discussed in detail, available on the website. There's no secret to it. We show how we're funding the projects, and we operate on a pay-as-you-go approach. It's the same approach that I would take as mayor. And for instance, the Aquatic Center, which opened earlier this year, will be fully funded and paid for by next year. And we've showed how we're doing that in the budget. So there are no surprises here, there are no secrets, but he clearly demonstrated a lack of understanding to the process.